Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the month of October. And there has been this mounting and building of energy all the way to this month. Astrologically, this month is going to be the very most eventful. And why do I say that? Well, first of all, we've got a solar eclipse. The solar eclipse will be occurring October 25th. And this solar eclipse is going to be a doozy. We have got so much going on. This solar eclipse has already been affecting the world because every time we have an eclipse, it's about a 6-month experiment that things will be happening in alignment with the eclipse energy. So you see, there's 2 eclipses, solar eclipses that is, every year. And they always happen 6 months apart because they are when the sun and the moon align with the nodal axes, which is Rahu and Ketu. In Western astrology, we call that the north node is Rahu and the south node is Ketu. So now you know that these nodal axes that are always exactly opposite, when they line up with the lights, the sun and the moon, the luminaries, that is when we have eclipses, because it is a darkening of the light of, in a solar eclipse, the sun, but in a lunar eclipse, the moon. And we always have a lunar eclipse, not always, but generally a lunar eclipse either follows before or after the solar eclipse. And the solar eclipse is the main feature, but that's when you have a new moon, when the sun and the moon come together. That is a new moon. We have one every month, but not where they align with Rahu and Ketu. And this eclipse is a Ketu eclipse. So the sun and the moon are together with Ketu in the sign of Libra. And this will happen October 25th. Now, before I proceed any further, I always want to remind everyone, if you want all of my predictions, dates and times delivered to your email address, you can go to my website, galacticcenter.org, and sign up for my free newsletter. Go to galacticcenter.org and you will see all the wonderful things I have going on, such as the Shooting Stars series, which we meet every week, such as the University of Vedic Astrology, where I have a complete certification program with so many interesting people. It is a community. So go to my website, galacticcenter.org, and then check out my university website if you're interested in learning Vedic astrology. That's the astrology that I do. By the way, why do I do Vedic astrology over Western? Because Vedic astrology uses the sidereal placements of the planets, which are actually the true astronomical correct placements. It is so much more predictive. So that is, go to universityofvedicastrology.com to see my school if you're interested in learning. But let's continue on with this powerful month that everything is finally coming to a crescendo. We have been building and building. And frankly, I think everyone's like fed up. They're like, okay, what's next this year? We've seen so much. What else could be? Here is the month you've been waiting for, where the purging, where the happening, where the truth comes out. Why am I always talking about the truth? Well, because eclipse energy is the darkening of the light, And therefore, when you have this eclipse energy, what you're going to find is that something comes out of the dark and is revealed. This is so important for us to realize that something big is about to be truly exposed. And let me say, there are so many things happening this month. First, it's a solar eclipse. Then we have Mars going retrograde. There's 3 major features of things happening this month that are going to be a big surprise. So this is a big surprise month. We can't see it coming, but it is absolutely, we all feel it, we all sense it, we all know it. And this is the month the realizations will be occurring. What you're going to see is first we're going to have the solar eclipse, then October 30th, Mars will turn retrograde. Mars is the trigger of events. Mars is what makes things happen. It's fire, it's action. And unfortunately, it rules anger and violence and war. And I see a lot going on. We're going to talk about this. This is so eventful this month, and really the eclipse season, which is the most intense period, which is between the solar eclipse, which is October 25th, and 2 weeks later when we have the lunar eclipse on November 8th. These are going to surmount into major catastrophe of fighting and violence and possibly even serious war. I know the Ukraine's been in war this whole year, but there is more to come. And I'll explain why. Because the third event this month is when Saturn's stationing. Saturn's been retrograde and it's going to station, and Saturn's going to turn direct. And that will be October 24th, that Saturn is standing still. And it is at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Now that has been squaring Uranus at 24 degrees of Aries. This square between Uranus and Saturn always causes big events concerning earthquakes, earth changes. You're going to see the earth is shaking from all the violence and all that has building to an explosive event that's about to take place. And this is the month. So what are the 3 things again? The solar eclipse, Mars retrograde, October 30th. Mars deals with violence and war. And retrogrades bring things back that have not been completed. And that's going to be the action that needs to be taken. So how long is Mars going to be retrograde? So Mars will be retrograde October 30th through January 12th. But it will be in the sign of Taurus for quite a long time, which this generally has always brought incredible problems with the economy, a recession. The last time that Mars went retrograde over these degree portions of the zodiac was 2008. We all remember 2008. It was a catastrophic year for the economy, a huge recession. And then the other time that Mars was retrograde in this portion of the zodiac was 1990 to 1991, another time of a deep recession. So yes, the economy is going to hit bottom in October. The stock market, yes. So essentially, it is time to buy. If you're interested in investing in the stock market, yes, it's time to buy. But I wouldn't be ready to cash out soon because it's going to stay low for almost a year. But then it will come back and you could make a great increase in your money in a year's time for sure if you invest now. But a lot of people don't have the spare cash to be investing with the recession, so be careful. The economy is in for a slowdown, and it's going to stay that way for a while. Why? Because I see so much happening, especially around the area of war. Let's go back to the solar eclipse that's happening in Libra. Libra is the sign of peace, of balance, of finding where things are just and justice. That's the symbol for Libra, the scales, for balance and justice. And that's what's about to happen. A lot of people are really concerned over what's happening in their governments. And yes, there is going to be a big balancing act. And those that have done wrong will have to pay. We will see all of this coming about. Of course, this is going to cause great rage going on in the world. But with this solar eclipse being in Libra, and it is almost exactly conjunct planet Venus, this is a time that you're going to find that people are trying to find their balance, peace, but it's completely out of balance. Completely out of balance. And being conjunct in Libra with Venus in Libra, almost the exact degree. Venus is eclipsed by this solar eclipse. Venus rules love and money. These are the areas of your life that something will be exposed. Something about your relationship will come up and be exposed. You personally, yes, this is the way it works. It happens individually in our own lives, but it's also reflected outwardly in all of the world governments and what's going on. So you're going to find that this is a time and the month that you have to be pure and come clean about things. You got to be truthful, because what's happening right now is the truth is being exposed on all accounts. And if you're not truthful, guess what? There's not going to be any trust. If you don't have trust in your relationships, in your leadership, you don't have anything. Trust is the power that will heal and make the world better right now. And it's very hard to find trust right now because there's been so many untrustworthy people out there in the world. They say one thing, they do another. You're going to see so much of this. So this is a time of war and peace. This is a time of finding what it's going to take to bring the world to a place of peace. This is a very critical time, but it's all about love and commitment and truthfulness in your own personal life as well as in the global world. So because what has been hidden is coming to the forefront, at least we know what we're dealing with. And at least we know where we can find justice and make the world a better place in the long run, because that's why this is all happening. Now, one thing I did notice, these eclipses, as I say, they will always bring earth changes, earthquakes. But another thing is when Saturn's stationing in October, yes, on October 24th at 24 degrees. What do we have? Well, I noticed that President Zelensky of the Ukraine has his moon at 24 degrees of Cancer, where Saturn is stationing opposing. He's in big danger and trouble. I don't think you can tell Putin that he's lost the war without him coming out with his big guns to make his mark. So I am very, very afraid of Putin. I don't think he's bluffing when he talks about nuclear war. I don't think he's bluffing. This is a serious issue we have to consider. This looks dangerous for this month, moving all the way down to December. This is critical. Now, another thing, as I mentioned, this eclipse sits at 7 degrees of Libra. I also noticed that President Biden has his moon at 7 degrees of Aries. And you know who else has their moon or at that degree? Queen Elizabeth, that just passed away. Her moon is exactly the same degree as President Biden's moon. So I've been very, very concerned about President Biden's health based on this eclipse energy and where it is. But there's another thing happening this month that is astounding to me, and that is that Pluto is stationing. Pluto is stationing, and it is at 2 degrees, around 2 degrees of Capricorn. And I noticed that this affects both President Biden's Jupiter, which sits at 2 degrees of Cancer, and Donald Trump's Venus sits at 2 degrees of Cancer in his 12th house. He better be very careful because the 12th house is the house that deals with prisons. And I believe there will be a short stay for Trump because of this Pluto stationing with his Venus. And for President Biden, it's his Jupiter in his 9th house. What does that tell you? That Biden is delighted over the prospect that Trump may have to sit out in prison. He's in big trouble with this aspect this month. And as I said, everything is going to be exposed. And that means every world leader is going to contend with something this month through November. Yes, there's going to be all over the United States around this next election on November 8th. Voter fraud. It's going to be rampant and crazy. Everyone will be talking about this. And I think it's leading up to, with everything that's happening with Trump, with Biden, with the elections, pretty much it looks like a civil war could be happening. Something to the effect like a civil war. So with Mars going retrograde, and I will give a detailed account on that in another video, Mars going retrograde, which will bring out major issues with war and attacks and anger. The eclipse happening in Libra, which is the sign of war and peace, and finances, money, stock market plummeting, and the prospect of a war, a serious war around the world. I didn't even mention that Xi Jinping has his sun exactly 0 degrees of Gemini, where Mars is going to station going retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini, and that's the end of October. So the world is coming together with violence, war. It is quite a predicament. I've been warning people about this. This is what we are facing. And here is how we can deal with it, because there's always something to learn in all of this. Always a spiritual message, always. What is it for this month? Well, with Libra, it deals with truthfulness. And not only that, it deals with the word trust. Remember what I said, if you don't trust, you have nothing. And therefore, how can we see and attract trustworthy people, and the feeling of trust in our beliefs and our world leaders. It starts with you. You must believe in yourself. Here is what we will be challenged with this month: to practice trustworthiness within ourselves, because what is out there is always a reflection of what is within us. So how do you attract trustworthy people and trust in this world? By having it yourself. And that always is what's within you. So you might think, well, I trust myself. No, let's start looking at every area of your life and see if whatever you committed to, and that goes for relationships, that goes for projects, business, whatever you have committed to, have you followed through to the end? This is what I'm talking about. When you commit to something, you've got to trust yourself to finish and follow through and finalize everything so that you can say, yes, I trust myself. When I commit to something, it's done. It's complete. And when we have this trust in ourselves, then we start to attract people in our lives that are trustworthy. And this is the healing message that I feel like we have got to learn with this eclipse coming together in the sign of justice, Libra, the scales, balance. We all have to find our balance. We all have to find our trust and our beliefs in ourselves, because that's the only way that we are going to create a better world, through our working on ourselves individually. And then guess what? We'll have a world we can trust, leaders we can trust. But it starts with you. You must have the trust and the love and the commitment within your heart for everything that you start out to do in your life. If you do this, you will have a powerful effect in changing the course of action that this world is looking at right now in this much pivotal month of the entire year of 2022. It's upon us. It's now. Get to work. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, learning Vedic astrology, learning about all the classes and things I have offered, I just did a intensive on the outer planets. It was all recorded, a 6-hour class. You can purchase that class. Go to my website, galacticcenter.org, and check it all out. Everything is there at galacticcenter.org. And remember, if you want to learn astrology, Vedic astrology, go to my university website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.